I'm just trying to think of a catchy title. Welcome to the Integrated Health of Indiana, 7 o'clock talk with special guest star that is always here, the big dog Libby, who the minute we sit down gets right in her face. Just hi, right there. Hello, hi. And so tonight we're going to talk about what actually Dr. Kalish um, actually introduces as the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Um, and so if you read the Bible and you read Revelations, you know, there's famine, what the pestilence, whatever the four horsemen ending in death. So the body kind of has the same type of thing that happens. Hi, Kath. We're Libby. Golly. Codependent, needy dog. Sit. And she thinks if she squints her eyes, we don't see her. Like she hides her massive 100-pound body. Anyway, so the four horsemen, when we start to talk about the body. So remember, there are three things that break the body down. You have stress, whether that is mental, emotional, physical, what other, I mean, any stress there is. It could be in your head. It could be relational stress, whatever the stress is. So stress, and then you have food. So foods like, you know, there was Casey made pizza tonight, and I came in and I was like, yeah, I'm going to take the hit. So I ate the leftover pizza. So that food is something that gluten is something that I react to. So depending on how good my gut is, I will or will not get a rash. But food causes a very definite reaction in the body. And you also have to remember that food is what you rebuild with. So if you're not eating good food, then you're not going to rebuild well, and you're not going to rebuild healthy. And then last but not least, you have inflammation. And inflammation is kind of the root of chronic stress and chronic problems, because inflammation is a normal body process. So if I was to cut Jessica, her body would start an inflammatory process to kill anything that gets into the cut that's not supposed to be there. And then it's going to clot, and then it's going to scab, and then it's going to take 3 or 4 days for it to heal up. And that is a normal process. But what happens to us when we are under chronic stress and inflammation is it just smolders, and it stays there, and it continues to break down. And so then what happens is the body starts to go through. Oh, I forgot. Happy anniversary. So then we look at this, and this is what the body actually goes through. And so first we see the body go through inflammation. And hun, just tell them what things are inflammatory. Give them some foods that are inflammatory, and then give them some other things that cause inflammation.
Sugar is a big one. Any food you're sensitive to.
Sugar, food sensitivities, physical.
Drawing a loss.
Do what? Oh,
drawing more food.
Physical trauma. I forgot the R. Trauma. If you have physical trauma, dysregulated hormones. And there could be tons of things. We could be talking like it's physical trauma. You could be talking about abuse. You could be talking about something that happened to you when you were a child and you have walled it off. Sugar is in everything and causes inflammation. So if you have this process going on a long time, what happens to people that have issues happening, inflammation going on for a long time?
Well, it can trigger autoimmune disorders.
So,
It becomes chronic, and then you get the breakdown.
so you have autoimmune disorders, and then this catabolic means that things are breaking down. So osteoporosis, osteopenia. What other things are breakdown diseases? Even diabetes.
Arthritis.
Oh, yeah, that's a biggie. So when this is let go for a long time, it leads into catabolic physiology. And then we have to start to bring the body out of that breakdown. And so this is where it gets really hard, because if you're in catabolic physiology, we have to identify the triggers. And so when we're identifying the triggers for catabolic physiology, this is why we do an adrenal test. Are your adrenals tanked? Is your GI map, are we seeing lots of infections? Actually, I've been quite proud of our patients, because our patients' GI maps, their second GI maps, are coming back beautiful. Their omics tests are looking better and better. Tina, that's me. And so we're starting to see the process that people are going through to heal is paying off. But if you don't take care of this catabolic physiology when things are breaking down, then we lead into insulin resistance. And this is bidirectional. If you're eating foods that are high in sugar, highly processed, have food sensitivities, it will raise blood sugar and thereby raise insulin. And you have to remember, insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone. It is anabolic. So if you have a bunch of insulin running around in your body and you get cut, you don't form a scab, you form a keloid, you form a scar, because you're so inflamed that the body can't do it in regular time. It does it in this super fast process, and it breaks the body down and you get a scar. So then we see the blood sugar, the insulin goes up. And when insulin goes up, lots of bad things happen. And there's a very vicious circle that when blood sugar and insulin go up, it tells the adrenals that we are in fight or flight. So then your adrenals kick into overdrive and kick out more cortisol. In short term, that's great, because if you're kicking out more cortisol, you're ready to fight, you're ready to run. And hun, what happens when your adrenals tank?
Yeah, your whole system tanks.
How do you feel?
Tired.
What do you want to do?
Hurt. You don't want to do anything. It can lead to depression, mood issues. You just chronically want to sleep. You're tired. You're fatigued.
And what happens is cortisol,
gain weight.
Cortisol goes up in the short term, then it will level off. And then DHEA, we want to see that go up. And that helps with taking care of the hormones and taking care of the body, and can help you produce more cortisol. But if this stays up a long time, they both go flat, they both go low. And when that happens, then all of a sudden, if you're a guy, you have problems with building muscle and maintaining muscle. You could have problems with muscle mass,
Low libido.
low libido. You could have a lack of or not be able to get into the arousal state. You won't care. You'll be apathetic. Typically, men that start to go into the phase 2 and phase 3 of the adrenal fatigue start to become risk takers because they like the hit of adrenaline. And so it becomes a fix. It becomes a Band-Aid for them. So insulin resistance is a bear, but you can take care of that pretty easily. We take care of that with herbs, diet, exercise, and time restricted feeding. And insulin resistance, even a ketogenic diet at times, insulin resistance, we can knock this stuff out in a few weeks. We can really start to get it under control, especially if they love to cook their own food and they're willing to make some changes. You can knock insulin resistance out. Shoot, you can put a serious dent in diabetes in weeks, actually. But that takes somebody who's like me, that's a big stickler. Or Jess. Actually, Jess is a bigger stickler on that stuff than I am. But then once insulin resistance is allowed to continue, then you start to go into oxidative stress. And this oxidative stress affects you at the DNA level. What are diseases that we look at because of DNA issues? Anybody ever heard of the BRCA gene? So
that's cancer of the breasts.
Yep. So when your DNA starts to malfunction and are not producing the proper patterns and letters and peptides and proteins, then all of a sudden you have a very, very serious problem because your physiology can get out of whack and you will start to you can start to get issues with cancers and stuff like that. So we don't like to see that stuff. We don't want to hear about that stuff. And we want to help people stay away from that. So those are the 4 horsemen and kind of how they happen. And that's how that kind of cascades through the body. And we're starting to see people now that are actually at the DNA stage where they're starting to get hurt and they're not producing their strands right. So, I mean, to say that we affect cancer is a stretch. We want to see people before they get to that physiology because we can reverse that physiology. Sometimes once you step through a doorway, you can't come back. And that's why people need to get checked out. And we just need to be as healthy as we can be. Anything else to add? Because I just gabbed on and on and on.
Nope.
But we can start to help with the adrenals. I mean, that's what we do at Integrated Health. We help with the adrenals. We go into the microbiome. And then we go to the organic acids. And now we can really start to make plans that start and have basically 3-month tracks. First, we start to take care of the adrenals. Then we start to take care of the gut. And then we start to take care of any toxicity issues.
We can tell them which test we use to do that. There's 3.
The adrenals, the Dutch.
Yeah, we do the Dutch.
Dutch, GI map, and omics.
Yep.
And those have become the most effective. We kind of came at this through the back door. We were doing a lot of the latest and greatest tests as they came out, but to be able to show a patient what's happening, the Biome FX, which I do still like. I mean, it's an incredible test, but it almost has too much information and it doesn't give you the pertinent information.
It's a lot of quantity.
Yeah.
And doesn't give you specifics.
And so now we've gone to something that doesn't have the depth that the Biome FX and the GI map, but you can see infections, you can see parasites, you can see worms, you can see all of these things.
Lots of usable information.
Yeah, lots of actionable information. And I love Microbiome Labs. I still use their stuff to help fix the gut. I mean, it's just awesome product. Their test is awesome. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to know how to use it. That could be it too.
I think that I really like all three of those tests. And those are kind of our keystone tests that we like to see on all of our functional medicine patients. And when you stack them all on top of each other, you get a beautiful pattern and specifics to work on.
Oh, and then you can, once you have that basis. So like for me, who still deals with some, I got to redo my cholesterol test. My antibody test for thyroid came back great. So because I had issues, we were watching my thyroid, and we actually got to see my thyroid change in a positive way. Now we should see my cholesterol change in a positive way. So with that being said, we will see you next week. And you have a good night. Be safe. And Halloween's coming up. Look out for trick-or-treaters. And we'll see you next time.